Hey, this is Tony with Saltstrong, and I want to go over replacing treble hooks on your hard baits with single inline hooks like so. Now you might ask yourself why you want to do this. There's a few reasons. First being, if you do practice catch and release, it's a lot better to use these single hooks than you would use treble hooks, because treble hooks definitely tear up a fish's mouth a lot more than a single hook would. And also the treble hooks may hook a fish in an area that they shouldn't really get hooked, such as in the gills or just under the throat and the belly, anything like that. So it's definitely better to have single hooks on your lures. Now also, if you are landing these fish in a net, it's a lot easier to get the lure out of the net with these single hooks, because if you've ever had a lure full of treble hooks in a net, you probably know what I'm talking about. It's very difficult to get it out. Also, the single hooks, if you are fishing an area with a topwater lure, such as a Skitter V or Skitter Walk, or a Super Spook, or any kind of topwater lure, if you're fishing an area that has a lot of grass floating on the surface, it's definitely beneficial to use these single hooks because they won't catch as much grass as these treble hooks would. So you wouldn't be bringing in a bunch of grass with your lure. Now let me go ahead and talk about the proper hooks that you want to use when replacing your treble hooks. Now you want to make sure these are inline hooks. As you can see, what that means is that the eye of the hook is actually in line with the hook itself. It also has a larger eye, so that hook can move a little more freely. Now you don't want to use regular hooks because the eye is actually set 90 degrees to the hook, and that will affect the action. That'll affect the way the hook is facing on the lure. So you don't want to use regular hooks, and you also definitely don't want to use circle hooks, because you won't end up hooking fish with circle hooks. They're not meant to be used with lures. They're meant to be used with live baits, and that way when the fish takes the bait, the hook actually hooks itself into the mouth of the fish. So definitely don't use circle hooks. Make sure they are inline single hooks. Now the ones I'm using here, these are made by VMC, and they are inline hooks. And the best size that I found to use for topwaters and your bigger hard baits are the size 2/0. Now for your smaller twitch baits like the Miradine, you want to go with a size 2. Now the difference is the size 2 is smaller than the 2/0. 2- or /0 would be a 2/0, and a size 2 would just say 2. Now I actually purchased these at Academy Sports and Outdoors. It was $3 for a 6-pack, which was a good deal. They also had owner inline hooks, but they were a little pricey. It was $4 or $5 for only 3 single hooks. So definitely worth your money to buy the VMC. You can also go to Academy's online website if you don't have a store near you, and you can purchase them off their website there. And that's the cheapest that I've actually found these inline hooks. Now aside from making sure you have the proper hook to replace your treble hooks, you want to make sure these hooks are facing the right way when you do put them on your topwater lure or any hard bait. So when you are replacing these treble hooks, you want to make sure when you put the inline hook on the rear that the point of the hook is facing to the back. Now it's just the opposite when you put the hook on the front. You want that hook facing forward. The reason this is because when you put the hook on in the front, if you put it facing the rear, as you're working the lure, the hook is going to lay up on the side of the lure, and you're pretty much hiding the hook from getting into the fish's mouth. When you have that hook facing the front, as you're working the lure, that hook moves back and it's now exposed so you can hook the fish. Now I'm going to go ahead and show you how to replace these. What you're going to want to use are split ring pliers. As you can see, the tip of these pliers has a little notch on the top that helps get into the split ring to get the hook off of the lure. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how to replace these treble hooks with these inline hooks. So here you can see the rear hook is facing to the back like so, and the front hook is facing to the front. Now again, you want to do that to increase your chances of hooking up on a fish. If you have these hooks flip-flopped or not facing the right way, the lure is actually going to hide the hook. So if this hook was facing the other direction, it would be up on the body of the lure and it wouldn't allow for a hookup. Same if the rear hook was facing down or forward. When the lure is moving, the fish would grab the top of the hook and not the pointy end right there. So just make sure you have your hooks facing the right direction when you do replace with inline hooks. Now, if you're in the middle of replacing these hooks and you start hooking yourself on these treble hooks while you're trying to get it off, what I like to do is just snip the barbs or the very tips off. That way it's a little easier and less painful to get these hooks off. Or you can just snip the entire hook off and then start putting your inline hook on. That way you're not hooking yourself on these treble hooks while you are trying to replace them. Now lastly, there seems to be a little bit of debate as to whether or not you're going to hook as many fish as you would if you are using treble hooks when you're using these inline hooks. Now in my opinion, you are going to hook more fish with the treble hooks because they will hook fish in more places than just their mouth. You can hook them on the side of the face, in the throat, on the gill plate, or anything like that. With the inline hooks, you're pretty much guaranteed to hook them in the mouth. Now with that being said, you can work this lure more efficiently in places that you can't use treble hooks, such as areas with a lot of grass just below the surface, or grass floating on the surface. So you have more time working the lure rather than actually having to take grass off of your lure, reel it in, and get it cleared off. So if you have any questions about using inline hooks on your hard baits, please feel free to leave a comment down below. Also be sure to check out our Salt Strong Insider membership, where we show you detailed fishing reports as to where we're catching fish, how exactly we're catching them, also some detailed product reviews and some pretty sweet discounts on gear. Until then, I'll see you on the next video.